Hello and welcome to Movie Film Studios, the only podcast that takes you inside the mind of two film studio executives as we unravel and then re-ravel the best that Hollywood has to offer. I'm Isaac.
And I'm AJ, and today in the Movie Film Studios Memorial Theatre we sat down and watched the 2017 action-adventure film Valerian and the City of Thousand Planets City Planets.
So, action-adventure, you missed sci-fi, and because sci-fi plays a massive, massive part in that. But before we get into that, let's...
Yes, indeed.
What are we calling this segment? The Box Office Report, I believe.
Box Office Report.
And now has an official title, and maybe even musical stings. We'll see. Let's see how we go. Last week we put out a film.
Yes,
we definitely did.
We definitely did.
I think we called it Tequila Gold.
Tequila Gold, and we were chasing that gold.
Chasing that Oscar gold. How did that go, AJ?
Well, look. We sort of maintained that we were going to release that film just before the 2018 Oscar ceremony.
Like on the 19th of February, the day before the ceremony.
Yeah. But the internet and our fans and everyone rallied. They wanted to see Tequila Gold early. So we thought we'd fast-track it. And in the process of fast-tracking it, we actually fast-tracked our digital distribution platform as well.
Oh, nice. I was going to ask about that this week.
Yeah. So it's currently only got Tequila Gold on it.
Right, okay.
There is nothing else on this service. It does cost about $15 a month, and you can only stream Tequila Gold on it. But everyone starts small, right?
Exactly,
Like Netflix didn't launch with a massive back catalogue of content. Now, Isaac, what did we call that little platform again?
Our digital streaming platform.
Our digital streaming platform,
It's... MFS W D DSP.
Okay.
It's so it's Movie Film Studios Workshop Digital distribution platform.
Great.
We only refer to the acronym as MFS W D DDP. Which, I mean, most people are just calling it which is fine. It's getting a lot of SEO, like everyone who types it in goes straight there.
Straight to it?
Because there's nothing else out there that's even remotely close to what that stands for. So
we haven't yet got Google to recommend it if they sort of spell a letter wrong, if they use the wrong character. But we'll get there. They have to type it out exactly like that.
Because initially... I went with Netflix, but like without the X, so it was as Net FLICKS.
Oh yeah.
But Netflix actually already owns Netflix and Netflix, and like they've been super litigious in like buying all of those domain names that anything remotely sounding like is already gone.
Yep.
We've taken the same approach, and we've got MFSW D DDPS, MFSW D DDP T, and like so any letter that's anywhere close to any of those letters, I've bought all of the domain names, and redirected them back to and so anyone who's even remotely close to coming to our website will actually get there for that digital distribution.
If you sign up for it now, that's where all of our films will be exclusively released. At least after they've come out in the cinema or whenever we decide to put them on there.
There's actually, I mean, I know you said we're delaying Tequila Gold, and there's a lot of buzz around that. I actually got a letter in the mail today.
Did you?
And the Salary movie has been nominated for Best Animated Film.
Aye!
Because it's an animated film that came out this year, and therefore it gets nominated for an Oscar. That's the rules.
So we're officially an Academy Award nominated studio.
Exactly,
Holy crap.
I know.
We're moving up.
Moving on up.
Well, let's see if we can, get another one in the bag. But before we do that, I think it's time for This Week in Trailers.
This Week in Trailers.
And maybe another sting. Who knows?
Oh yeah, who knows? I mean, we'll see. You've bought a nice new soundboard, so if it's got some instrument inputs, we can.
We'll jam. We'll jam after this recording's over. And
actually, one of my housemates plays bass, and I have a feeling that maybe one week we can get him in just live, sitting here, playing us some little bass riff stings between segments.
That'd be great. I mean, it's always nicer to do this live than it is to do it in post, where we haven't left enough gaps to slip in a audio sting. But that's fine. Sort through that. This Week in Trailers. What did we watch this week, Isaac?
The first trailer we watched this week was a Colin Firth and Rachel Weisz film.
Yep.
I can't remember what it's called.
It's called The Mercy.
The Mercy.
The Mercy.
The basic plot of the film is that there's an ad for a around-the-world yacht race. A small-town Englishman, played by Colin Firth, decides that he's going to build a boat and participate in this yacht race, even though he has no sailing experience. He's got no experience building boats, but he's the everyman who has a vision and has a dream and wants to pursue it. And then his wife is Rachel Weisz is left at home and worried about her husband. I think the trailer then sort of goes into the fact that he's so far behind and he's all alone out in the ocean. He starts lying about where he is in relation to the race to drum up support, or I'm not really sure.
It seems like he goes through some travails in terms of weather and storms and all sorts of stuff, and then he decides, I'm just gonna lie.
I'm not sure. Like it seems as though, again, based on true events,
some kind of true story. Yeah.
Like again, all of these things that say that are loosely based on something. There was a man who sailed a boat. Yeah, we can say it's based on real events because a man sailed a boat once.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think he becomes somewhat famous, or his story gets picked up because he's lying about where he is in the race. He seems to be setting records, and people are like, oh, this man's sailing better than anyone's ever sailed before.
Yeah.
From the director of The Theory of Everything, the Eddie Redmayne and Rogue One, what was her name?
Felicity Jones.
Felicity Jones, yeah. Which, not a bad film, but again, it feels that film felt a bit Oscar bait-ish as well. And I think it won Oscars as well.
Yeah.
This sort of feels the same, it's a heart-wrenching story of a man's struggle to survival and pursue his dreams and hold his family together. And it's got elements of Castaway in there. You see Colin Firth with his shirt on with a stubbly beard.
Yep. That's it. It's just it's a film about a white guy that wants to do something. That's really it. I can't... Yep.
I mean, to be fair, you can't really fault them for going,
No.
We'd like to make a film that wins an Oscar. And I'm just like, we cannot, we can't, shun anyone who has that same dream as us. Because we're white guys and we have a dream. And our dream is to win an Oscar.
And we've been nominated.
And we have been nominated
got a taste
now,
of that gold.
I mean, we don't have a chance. Like, if Pixar puts any film out this year...
They released Coco. Coco's out.
Is it out now?
It's out now.
Okay, we're done for. Yeah. I mean, again, we released an animated film, and that means that we get nominated for an Oscar.
That's right, yeah.
But Pixar, I'm sure it's already,
That's in the bag. Yeah. It's in the bag. There's not even any point. What are we going to do with all these pallets of tequila now as well for all the...
Can I just say something? You told me last week that tequila is clear, and it is. It is. But there are many. The higher brands of tequila are yellow, and I'm like, I don't know. A lot of the stuff I Google after the episode, I think we said Ian McKellen was an Oscar winner. He's only a nominee.
Yeah.
So he's out. I think we're going to have to do some ADR for
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale can voice Oscar the Grouch. Yep. So even though Ian McKellen is the puppeteer, it'll be Christian Bale's voice. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, and Gary Oldman did win.
He did, yeah.
But for Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and I really that's a 2012 film, and we did reference it a lot. Yep. I really would have thought he would have won back in the early 90s or something like that. But
it would have helped if I'd actually seen that film as well. But anyway,
who knows?
So The Mercy, go see it or don't. I don't care.
Yeah. Trailer number 2: a white guy wants to do something in The Greatest Showman. So this is a Hugh Jackman vehicle where he plays P.T. Barnum. The I think 1930s sort of Dust Bowl America. He comes up with the idea of the Big Top Circus. I think he's known for being the founder of that sort of greatest show on earth, and decides that his family's poor and has this idea of bringing all these outcasts and misfits together to create the greatest show.
Gathering a menagerie of animals and performers and, for lack of a better term, and I'm doing this in inverted commas, freaks.
Yes, I mean, but they were initially known as freak shows, and it may not be correct, but, going back to the bearded ladies and the tattooed man, the strong man, the small people,
and so on and so forth.
I think this has the Siamese twins. I think there was the reason that we call them Siamese twins is because of these two brothers who were conjoined twins who came across from Thailand or wherever Siam initially was and performed in this show together. It feels like, I think they're doing a musical thing where it's a lot more sort of song and dancey. I mean, again, Hugh Jackman's in it and he is the song and dance man.
Yes.
But I do feel like they break out into musical numbers quite a lot.
Yeah, it's got a kind of a very saturated Moulin Rouge-esque kind of style to the whole thing.
It feels very Moulin Rouge.
with some hints of potential problems and complications. There's a bit in the trailer that shows the local villagers, or the villagers, or the townspeople.
I mean, it looks like Frankenstein.
It does,
the
yeah.
villagers from Frankenstein with their pitchforks and torches.
Yeah, just like, we don't want no circus here, buddy.
This town ain't big enough for... I think the motive or the emotion that it's trying to go for is that P.T. Barnum is this man who... no matter what your appearance or your lot in life, you will find a home here at the circus, and we accept everyone. And the reason the villagers are out with their pitchforks and torches is like, oh, you're putting these freaks on stage as if they're equals, and we disagree with that.
Yeah.
And P.T. Barnum's like, no, they're people too, which is actually kind of like, it's a romanticized version.
Yeah.
I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I feel as though there's stories of him exploiting people, not paying them.
Right.
I think he kidnaps a kid at some stage and tries to pass this kid off as like a dwarf or a small person, it's just he was not a nice man and was very very that sort of business focused, anything for $1, and then you have these sort of like stories of them, and it's all very romanticized.
The legitimate history of P.T. Barnum is certainly not as clear cut as the film seems to make it seem.
Having said that, Movie Film Studios has not done a song and dance musical.
No, we haven't.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
We could at some stage. I'm not sure if.
I mean, like La La Land came out, and everyone loved that. The Artist a few years back, that won Oscars as well.
Moulin Rouge, I think, is Oscar winning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, there's some material there. I'm not.
Man, we are just like old timey prospectors with gold in our eyes now. Like we cannot see anything but Oscar gold.
Oscar gold, yeah.
Nothing. I mean, we'll get run over by a bus or something one day because all that's in our head is Oscar's gold.
I mean, I walk around every day, and pretty much everyone that I pass is just a blank-faced gold statue. I don't see people anymore. Yeah,
they don't move properly either.
No.
They kind of just wobble forward. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't normally watch those sort of musical, dancey films. It's not really my cup of tea. But I think
what type of films do you watch, Isaac?
I watch sci-fi, action,
Really?
adventure films.
Ah, interesting. Well, it just so happens that today you and I watched a sci-fi action adventure film, a film that we were actually, I mean, personally was looking forward to. Purely because of the talent on board. So this was directed by, and I can't say his name properly, but Luc Besson.
Sure, that'll do.
Great. Director of a lot of very not good films, but also...
so like he's got a reputation as being a good director, but he's done Leon the Professional, and he's done The Fifth Element, and they're the sort of the Western ones. He's done La Femme Nikita. I think there's a few sort of early 90s films which I haven't seen, but are reasonably well renowned. After The Fifth Element, which I think is 97, he's got Taxi, which I think is a French film, which I think Jimmy Fallon and Queen Latifah may have done the American remake of.
Wow.
He's got The Transporter.
Yep.
He's got
Taken. He wrote.
I think, as well.
Lucy.
And Lucy was just such an awful film that, like, so really anything after 97 is not really worth writing home about. But he's still a big enough name that he draws attention.
Was probably, look, I don't know film history very well, but I would say that he's probably one of the first French film directors that really made an impact in the Western market, in particular with stuff like The Fifth Element, which is an American co-production, but doesn't feel like an American film. It feels like a very European style film, and I think that he was sort of one of the early directors to bridge that gap between European cinema.
I think it was Jean-Luc Godard as well. Again, maybe I'm making that name up.
Sure.
I did study film at university legitimately, and I feel as though
it's not helping.
I feel as though I should know more about this, but it doesn't. You don't need to know a lot about film to make films, as movie film studios often shows.
Yep. But let's talk about this film, Valerian and the Planet of a Thousand Cities.
City of a Thousand Planets. Yeah.
Oh, damn it.
Other way around. I know it doesn't make any sense. And the really weird thing here is that the comic book series which it's based on is called, as you pointed out, Valerian
and Laureline.
And
Lorelei. So the film is comprised of these two characters, Valerian and Laureline, and they're really co-characters.
Exactly.
Right? They're two main characters. It's not like Valerian is like the head of the operation and Laureline plays second fiddle to him. No, they're meant to be on the same level.
Exactly. And they get equal billing in the title of the comic strip, but for some reason she drops off in the title of this, which is really strange. I should point out, last week we forgot to do our 2-minute recap.
Yes.
And listening back, I was wondering why our conversation about the film was all over the place. I'm like, we're missing that structure. So this week I'm going to be super strict.
Let's do it. The 2-minute recap Insert audio sting here.
I think we decided a couple of episodes back that I would do them because you don't like doing them.
Rubbish at them, and particularly for this film as well.
All right,
but we won't get to that point yet.
It feels weird that I've segued or jammed in the fact we're doing a 2-minute recap, and then that's my thing. I get to talk for the next 2 minutes. Oh, how strange, Isaac! Why did you bring that up?
You're clearly an executive. You just want to hear yourself talk. That's fine. All right, Isaac. 2 minutes on the imaginary clock I have next to me, and your time starts now.
So we open the film with a series of sort of montage cuts, starting in 75 when I think they launched like Sputnik space station or Mir space station or whatever.
Yep.
And then every sort of 25 years or so, a new nation comes along and adds their compartment to that space station, and so all of the nations of the world eventually sort of join up. You know, you've got China coming in with their thing, and then there's like a diplomatic meeting where they shake hands, and then you've got African nations and European nations, and they all sort of join up, and then suddenly aliens start arriving, and they broker peace as well, and they add their little modules to this rapidly growing space station. And until eventually this thing is so big that they can't have it as a satellite around Earth anymore because it's reached critical mass. And then Rutger Hauer, I think, is the president, and he's building the title. He literally has like a 30-second speech right at the start of the film and then disappears. He says that we're going to have to push this thing off into space and it's going to explore its own territory. So that's the start of the film. We cut to 400 years later where this massive space station has now thousands of different alien cultures, all sort of living together in this big sort of monstrous, bubbly, globular thing of a space station. We then cut to this beach planet where it's these avatar-looking sea creature. There's got like pearlescent skin. They love pearls. They eat pearls. They feed pearls to their little pet rats.
Yes, and they live in a very idyllic
they live in conch shells.
Yeah.
It's all very paradise as far as you can tell. And they have this very sort of like primitive culture where they collect pearls and then they feed the pearls to the earth, and the earth loves them in return.
Well, more than that, they feed them to these little animals.
Yes, there's these little animals. I think later on they call them like replicators. Anyway, if they feed a pearl to a little rat-looking dinosaur dragon lizard thing, who knows?
Yep.
And it starts pooping out like hundreds of them. It replicates whatever item you feed it.
Yep.
Then there's a spaceship that crashes, and there's lots of explosions in the sky, and a whole bunch of them die, and then the planet explodes. And then we cut to Valerian, who is played by
Dan DeHaan,
who is the kid who's from Chronicle and also from
the second Amazing Spider-Man as well.
He's not James Franco in the reboot of Spider-Man, just like Andrew Garfield is not Tobey Maguire. Cast in this role and what's her name? Clara
Delevingne.
Sure.
Delevingne, whatever.
Something.
Sure.
Divine, whatever. She looks divine. We'll call her Divine.
Sure.
Because there's enough of those letters in her name. They're on in a holodeck, and they're sitting on the beach, and they have a bit of a tussly, flirty fight while they're wearing their bathers, and they seem to have a pre-established relationship which isn't made terribly clear, and the dialogue's super clunky and awful. And then it turns out they're on a spaceship, and they go off into a mission.
Yep.
They go to like a Turkish bazaar style marketplace on a desert planet that looks so much like Tatooine that it might as well be Tatooine. Yep. And then they steal something from a parallel dimension marketplace using some weird technology. And this is, again, we haven't talked about it for a while. We had a bit of a whinge in the first few episodes where filmmakers just give characters magical powers for no apparent reason. They do this a lot in this film, where when a piece of technology needs to exist so a character can do it, it just does exist and it's there. They had this thing where the marketplace is in an alternate dimension or a parallel dimension, and suddenly they have objects which can go in there and grab the things that they want, and which work and don't work, and who knows.
It's ridiculous.
They ended up stealing a pearl and one of the little dinosaur rat dragon replicator monsters, which are apparently the only two left in existence. Yes. We go back to then the City of 1,000 Planets, cities, globule places, and it turns out that there's a tumor in the center of this mass of congealed things, and it's spreading out, and they have to go in and terminate it.
Yep.
I don't really want to get into the rest of the film because it's super boring, but like they go on adventures in and out of like different areas in this city planet. Turns out that the tumor in the middle is actually the last vestiges of the planet that blew up in the opening sequence,
Yep.
a few people survived, and to rebuild their planet, they need a pearl and a tiny little rat dragon monster replicator to rebuild their planet. And so then there's a conspiracy where Clive Owen was the one who was responsible for destroying their planet, and he didn't care.
Yep.
And then he discovered that these guys had secretly tried to revive their civilization inside the center, and so had sent armies in after them to try and destroy them. And then we're like, oh yeah, Clive Owen, military man equals bad, and Native American allegory people equals good.
Yep.
We side with them and allow them to win, and Clive Owen gets his comeuppance.
Sure. Yeah.
That's pretty much the story.
It
feels like a massive pastiche of every sci-fi thing you've ever seen before.
And the thing is, it has the same problem that Atomic Blonde has, in that it's not a very complicated story, but it's told in the most stupid way possible to make it confusing. So just stuff happens. Stuff happens at every turn. New things come up at every turn. New animals come up. New technology comes up. Anytime the characters are in some kind of situation, it's like, oh, there's a thing over here. Let's go do that now, because that'll get us to this thing over here, and then another thing over here happens, and then this thing happens over here. Oh, then this thing has happened.
So there's a point where Valerian he goes inside the center of this zone, which is the tumor zone, which is the red. I think they call it the red zone, maybe
the dark zone or the dead zone.
Yeah, something like that, where they can't detect anyone in there, and so Lorelei, to be able to find him, has to go into like the bowels in this ocean and retrieve a jellyfish, which is like a psychic jellyfish, which she can jam onto her head and see a psychic vision of where he is, so he can find her.
Yep.
I mean, she can find him, and it's just like, what?
Let's not even ignore how she got to that point as well. So while she's outside a big council meeting, these 3 aliens come up to her, and they are, as I described, a mix between an elephant and a platypus.
So they're I should say they're waist high.
Yeah.
They have demon wings and demon tails, the face of a platypus, and are covered in a brown fur. And there's 3 of them, and they seem to only be able to complete sentences together.
They're kind of like a hive mind thing. And they tell her all this information that they know for some reason. And they're the ones that then lead her to go to this underwater cavern, meet some new character who's the operator of this submarine vessel thing, to go to these giant sea monsters that have jellyfish growing in them, to take the jellyfish and then to use the jellyfish to get more psychic information about where Valerian is.
Yeah, and so she finds Valerian, and then she gets captured, and he has to go off and find a weird alien creature who turns out to be Rihanna, who is just like a jellyfish Mystique from X-Men, who can change her shape into whatever she wants, and then he uses her as a disguise to get into a restricted area to capture her, to recover her. It just becomes this series of like self-contained little adventures. And again, so I mentioned this was based on a comic book. It's a French comic book from I think originally published in 1967.
Yeah, it's a long running
and it ran I think up until 2010. And so this is where Luc Besson, like as a child, read these comic books and fell in love with them. And this movie is self-financed, so he either put his own money in or got independent. So it's actually an independent film. And I think you mentioned when you were doing the reading that it's the biggest budget independent film ever made.
It was $180 million budget. So it is the biggest independent non-American film ever made.
Yeah.
8 production companies worked on this, including a bank, I might add, which was just the most bizarre thing to see in the opening credits. That, you know, it's like, if you're Australian, it's like saying, this film was made by Commonwealth Bank. Like, not financed, but made by them. It was really weird. But I mean, all credit to Besson. I'm clearly this was a passion project.
Yeah,
for him.
so I mean, there's 43 years worth of comics to draw upon, and all of these characters, the psychic jellyfish character, the goo Mystique character, they're all characters from the book, and the film somewhat feels like that's what he's done. Yeah. He's picked his favorite little moments from decades of comics and tried to jam them all together into the one story, and it really doesn't work because it feels like I said, a pastiche, like just things that are sort of cobbled together, like a collage of things that don't quite sort of fit together. And I can see from someone who is in love with the comic that it might feel like it's done service to it.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can really compare it to is Tintin, which Spielberg a couple of years ago did Secret of the Unicorn, or no, he didn't do Secret.
He combined a couple of stories together.
He did. It was The Crab with the Golden Claws and Secret of the Unicorn.
Yep.
And then it should have been Brad Rackham's Treasure. And but he just sort of completely jumped over that book and gave it the conclusion. Anyway, like, I loved Tintin growing up. Like, read the comics over and over and over and over again.
Yep.
And I hated that film so much because there was so much Spielberg in there.
Yeah.
And it felt like detracted from the very simple sort of...
Yep.
Tintin is an investigative journalist.
Yes.
And not like an action hero.
Yep.
And they sort of went... Spielberg's like, oh no, we're going to have crazy cranes that fight one another. We're going to have...
Peter Jackson as well was involved in that. And Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright and Stephen Moffat wrote the script. I really thought they'd have more sensibility than that. But so this is... It sort of feels like the same sort of way. Like, unless you know the source material, you're not going to enjoy it. But then if you know it too well, no one can really do enough justice to it.
And I think you're exactly right in terms of pulling from multiple stories over the years of that particular graphic novel, because I think the name of the film itself is a portmanteau of 2 or 3 different graphic novels in the series.
Okay.
So, and that's what it feels like. It feels like a hodgepodge. It feels like a huge collection of things that if you were to isolate them and maybe give them time to play out and to be introduced properly, would actually feel kind of fun.
Yeah. So the biggest issue with this film is the relationship between Valerian and Lorelei.
Oh God.
And so it starts out, as I said, they're sort of wrestling in their swimming costumes, and they're sort of flirting about how, like, you know, I'll never go out with you, and he's like, you should go out with me, and it actually kind of feels a little bit like sexual harassment in the workplace.
Yeah.
And I get maybe if you've had like 20 years of this sort of back and forth banter between these two characters, it might sort of feel like it's just a bit of tongue in cheek, but because it's the first time you experience those two characters together on screen, there's no chemistry there, and it just kind of feels like predatory.
It's creepy, right? Because as well, Lorelei consistently rebuffs his advances as well.
Yeah.
To the point where it just feels really creepy. Like he proposes to her at the start of their mission at the bazaar.
Yeah.
And you're like, why are you even entertaining the notion of talking to this guy? Because nothing I've seen of the way you two interact suggests that you have any kind of decent relationship whatsoever. It just sounds like he's being a creep, and you're just kind of letting it happen. Like, obviously not to blame Lorelei's character at all, but it just comes across as feeling really awkward, and it made me feel really uncomfortable to watch.
It did. And having said that, she as a character and Miss Divine as I have absolutely no idea how
Cara Delevingne.
There's too many G's and N's next to one another.
Cara Da Vinci.
Yeah, sure. She's a model. I think first and foremost, that's where her fame comes from. She can act. She's pretty good in the film.
The standout of this film is
working
her.
with really horrible dialogue.
Yep.
And she's in Suicide Squad as the Enchantress, and like her line is Enchantress, and then she turns into Enchantress, or it might be Sorceress. Sure. I don't really know. I try and forget a lot about that film. She's really good. Obviously, got a really horrible script to work with, and in most of the other parts of the film, she's a strong and independent character who rescues Valerian once or twice. He rescues her. There's a nice balance. There's one point where he's like, I'm going to go in there and rescue them. You go get back up. And she's kind of like, yeah, screw that. And then goes in first.
She says something like, how about you stay back here and go get back up, and then just walks in and does it. And I think that was such a great moment.
Really
for her
nice
character.
that, you know, you can have that progression with like a female character in a film, and yet at the same time just completely overlook how misogynistic your main male character is.
Put her name into the name, like to the title of the movie, and I would suggest that she is the character you actually want to see.
Exactly.
She's the most entertaining character there. She's the strongest character there. She shows a maturity and depth that Valerian doesn't show. Valerian doesn't have an arc. He's pretty much an asshole from the start to pretty much the end.
He has a speech at the end of the film where he's just like, I'm a soldier. I have to play by the rules. I can't break the rules. Yeah. And I'm just like, when? All throughout the film, you're pretty much like, I'll do what I want. I don't care about your military.
Then, so, like, there's a bit of a climactic showdown between Clive Owen's character, who plays, like, the commanding officer of the entire Thousand Planet City, which is called Alpha. And he is, like, up against the natives, and he's like, no, this is not the truth, yada, yada, yada. We have to do what's right for us. And Valerian goes and just punches him in the face, right? As in, like, yeah, screw this, we're going to do it anyway because you're wrong. And then not 2 minutes later, when they're trying to figure out if to give the natives the creature and the pearl back, he's like, ranting on about how like, no, we've got to play by the rules and we've got to do things by the book and everything is for Alpha. You just punched the commanding officer in the face to stop him from doing what you just want to do now. He's inconsistent. Not even inconsistent. Like, he's just an asshole. There's nothing redeeming about his character whatsoever. And horribly, Laureline still goes to him and accepts his advances at the end of the film as well. And it's just like, that's... how?
So
why?
What's interesting about this is that the French comic book inspired The Fifth Element, which is a great film which has sort of these very sort of vibrant colors and busy world and crazy costumes. Apparently it inspired Star Wars as well.
Yep, I can see that.
A variety of other things. In the same sort of way where I think John Carter was like one of the original inspirations for lots of sci-fi stuff, and it came before everyone else, and people... Like, there was a director who had a passion project and he wanted to make that film and he had a lot of money to do it. At least you could say Valerian made its money back. I think John Carter is one of the biggest film flops of all time. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where even though it did come first, the source material is so much more recognized. So we were sitting here watching this film, and there's sequences that look like Tatooine, that looks like...
Phantom Menace. It looked like a lot of the prequel Star Wars films. It looked like various video games we've played over the years as well. There's a lot of Mass Effect in there.
The issue is that they're probably all inspired from the comic book, but because we've sort of entered in a point where we didn't know the comic book and we've seen all this other stuff first, now... the original source material looks derivative, and I kind of feel sorry for it in a lot of ways, but at the same time, what are you going to do?
Well, yeah, what are you going to do?
Let's talk about Rihanna.
Oh, God.
So she's in this film.
She's in this film for reasons I still can't comprehend. Clearly, they needed some kind of big-name actress in... She's not even an actress, let's face it. Like, her in this film is awful. Some of the lines that she delivers at certain points are so flatly delivered and so beyond anything resembling emotion... that you're like, why are you here? Why didn't someone just ADR you with a different voice altogether? Because for the most part, she actually plays a CGI blob character.
Exactly.
So we're introduced to her at a space strip club. Run by Ethan Hawke, who's in it for some reason. I don't know. Poor Ethan Hawke. I feel so bad for him sometimes. He's a good actor.
He is. But the good thing is he only gets like 2 minutes worth of screen time in this. So like...
So Rihanna is playing this shape-shifting striptease dancer, I guess, or stripper. And she does this dance routine where she turns into a bunch of different characters, still as herself, but like she's like a circus trainer at one point, and then she's like a nurse at another point, and this and that.
She's like a pharaoh, like an ancient Egyptian pharaoh at the end as well. So there's lots of costume changes. I think they've got like a thing where she's got a hula hoop, and as she sort of like pulls it over from like her toes to her head, the costume would change sort of in time with that. And it is a bit more burlesque than stripping.
It's very burlesque. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. And Valerian needs her because he needs to disguise himself as a particular kind of alien to get through the checkpoint that he needs to get through.
No foreigners beyond this point.
Yeah, because Laureline has been captured by this alien race, and he needs to disguise himself as one of them, and she has the ability to disguise herself as anything she wants. Again, very much like Mystique from X-Men. So we sit through this whole dance routine to see her dancing around all slinkily, and I'm like, yep, this is going on a little bit too long now. We don't really need to see this.
It's a weirdly long dance sequence in the middle of this film, which again, like by it's 2 hours long, and by about an hour and 25 minutes, I was not paying attention. And then you have this weird burlesque dance sequence, which it should have gone for maybe 30 seconds and ended up going for like 3.5 minutes. But
so she's in the film for, let's say, a grand total of 10 minutes. Or thereabouts. I don't think it's that long.
No, probably not. It felt much longer.
It felt a lot longer, but she's in it for about 10 minutes, most of it not playing a human character anyway. So spoiler alert, she dies. They have a big battle with the aliens inside this place where they are, and Valerian rescues Laureline, and then they both... the trio of them sort of fall through the ground into a sewerage system.
It just looks like a trash compactor.
It's the trash compactor from Star Wars,
from A New Hope,
and as a result of that battle, Rihanna dies.
Yeah, she's apparently been cut a couple of times. Who knows?
Yeah, and then for some reason, there's like at least a 5-minute sequence where Valerian is cradling her in his arms, and she's going off on this mad kind of emotional speech about life and death and this and that. And I'm like, why do we care?
Yeah.
You've had no screen time whatsoever.
I think it was trying to try and give Valerian impetus for changing his rakish and roguish ways, so that he would deserve the love of Lorelei when it finally sort of came around.
Yeah.
But then this blue jelly blob turns into sand. Why sand? Who knows? And sort of melts in his hand, and he's just got like sand all over his hands, and he's just looking at like, I don't want sand on my hands, but I also don't want to wipe off this dead person. It's really, really weird. So I suppose what I want to know, AJ, what are our takeaways from Valerian? What have we unraveled, and what have we found in there that's worth keeping, or what would we change?
Look, I mean, I love the production design. I love the zaniness, the wacky aliens, the color, and the vibrancy. And I feel like sci-fi is a bit too grim at times. There's too much grey. There's too much...
Guardians of the Galaxy did a very, like, let's put a lot of bright colours into this sort of spacescape. So that's I don't mind that. Guardians of the Galaxy has raked in a lot of money, so we can keep that.
We need just incredibly stupid sounding sci-fi names as well. Like,
yeah, I mean, any V's or W's or X's.
Get them in there.
Yeah,
what else do we need? We need gratuitous space battles as well.
Yeah, okay. And yeah, sure, like a needless exposition as you go into places of the history of the world.
Yeah.
That's fine. And really the one thing that we complained about was a relationship between the two main characters.
Yeah. Yep, sorry, go ahead.
I was just hopefully a lot less misogyny.
Yes, a lot less of that, but this film does a lot of cultural appropriation as well, so again...
Oh, yeah, okay, sure.
Whatever
absolutely.
culture you want from around the world, if you don't want to put, the actual cultures in the film, just have an alien version of it. That's fine. Star Wars did it, Avatar did it, Valerian and 1,000 planet city towns, villages did it. So...
Towns and villages, all of them. All right, okay. Again, I think we've been talking quite a lot about musical stings. I feel as though we do need a sting to get to the green room.
Yes.
And you were complaining that we weren't leaving a pause, so we're going to leave one now. And we're in the green room. It's magic.
It's so green in here.
Oh wow! Like normally we have to go up that elevator and walk through the lobby where all the lawyers are, and it's just getting a little bit awkward. So I love that the musical sting can just get us right here.
So we teleported up here now.
I mean that's the power of a musical sting. Like it may sound just like audio when you're listening to it as a podcast. In the real world, a musical sting has teleporting capabilities that can get you just from one spot to the other. So.
I love I'm bathed in green right now. It's so lovely. I haven't been in here for a while. Okay, so clearly it's time for movie film studios to make a sci-fi film, and it's great that we've got our workshops, to do this, digital and practical.
Digital and practical are, like, they're talking, I don't know if you heard about, they were on a break and then they wasn't really clearly communicated and then they weren't talking, and now they're sort of they're still I mean, you can't really bring it up around them, but they're at least talking to one another again. Okay. So
that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
We might have to like do some things as practical and some things as digital, and then edit them together, because I'm not sure we can really they'll work together that closely.
Yep. All right, so sci-fi film.
Right. Okay. Again, are we going to go? I know with KNIG HTS, we base that on original intellectual property. Valerian does a very sort of similar thing. Are we going to do that this time, or do you reckon we can just go straight sci-fi? Because I like the idea of doing our own thing, because like you can then just go batshit crazy, and people can go, oh, why is that there? And it's like because we wanted to, and it's sci-fi.
Yeah, I think we should do that. I think we should go original this time. I mean, we have the creative ability to really just pull things out and create them on the fly, so why not?
So I know you sort of really like that sort of production design thing, and you have a lot of those sort of coffee table books, those thick full color books of all the concept art. I reckon we just rip out all of the pages, we shuffle them together, we throw them in the air, and then we just pick out like concept design from Star Wars, concept design from Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, Fifth Element, Star Trek, whatever we want. Like, so we just like, because that's exactly what Valerian did, is they've just gone, instead of coming up with our own stuff, let's just take it from everywhere. I'm sure there's lots of video games. I'm sure one of my friends has like I think we mentioned Mass Effect as being a great video game that has lots of good concept art. So we just grab it from anything.
Mix it all up.
I mean, because you have the Jurassic Park one, so there's a really good chance that sci-fi dinosaurs could show up in this film.
Okay, so the film is about a native planet of sci-fi dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So not like the dinosaurs that we recognize, so not Tyrannosaurus Rex or anything like that, but like sci-fi dinosaurs. So they're all kind of like augmented with like space rings and colors and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So you know how Earth dinosaurs have feathers, right? That's pretty much a consensus now amongst the scientific community that dinosaurs have
as
feathers.
kids of the 90s, dinosaurs didn't have feathers when we were kids, and it's really kind of, I'm like, I get it, it's probably a little bit better. You found your guys that have been frozen in amber in China, and you can see the feathers there, but I like that lizard-style dinosaur from the early 90s, I think that's our space dinosaurs.
Space dinosaurs will be lizard-based.
Lizard-based
but
dinosaurs.
I want them to have like, kind of like glowing internal parts as well.
Oh,
That's how
right.
they communicate with each other. They kind of just use a collection of different coloured lights, I guess, inside
kind of like
them.
chameleon sort of changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So are these space dinosaurs, are they our protagonists or are they our antagonists?
I want them to be... I want the whole thing to centre around the conflict on this planet, right? So that this planet is almost like ground zero for the entire universe.
Okay.
So they are like super intelligent, highly evolved beings. So they don't talk with words; they talk through light patterns.
Yep, sure.
And basically, the universe exists around them, and they're in a kind of hidden bubble that no one can see. But then something happens, and that bubble is exposed, and suddenly we can see, the origin of the universe is contained on that planet.
So that's the origin of life.
Yeah.
Like, sort of like, you look at, I think
Prometheus did this.
Prometheus, yeah, but Prometheus did, like, the origins of life are these sort of bipedal, human-type things.
Yeah.
And we're saying, no, I mean, the first kind of life that really existed on Earth must have been dinosaurs.
Space dinosaurs.
So then space dinosaurs would have had to have seeded Earth and created the dinosaurs first.
Yep.
So I'm going to say, I've just been skimming through these pages I've picked up off the ground from the art books, and I've just picked up one from Indiana Jones. So there's going to also have to be space dinosaur Nazis.
All right.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be Nazis, but it's definitely a fascist regime on this this dinosaur planet that is scouring space for space artifacts. And so there's got to be again. Maybe take something from Prometheus as well, where there's that seed of life is like an artifact, sort of like the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant, which they have to go after.
All right, then we need to make a very important decision from this point forward. Is the film 100% space dinosaurs, or is it like space dinosaurs plus humans and other aliens?
Absolutely has to be other humans and other aliens. The point of doing a sci-fi space film is that people can scribble whatever they want on a piece of paper and the production team go, yes, that's an alien.
Great.
Which is exactly what they do at the start of Valerian. They just introduce all these species. It's like, oh, you've got a brain in your bum, you're an alien. Oh, you've got tentacles coming out of your ears, you're an alien. It's the Mos Eisley Cantona sort of like effect. And we can put space jazz in there.
Space jazz played by space dinosaurs.
Exactly.
I would love to see dinosaurs playing little versions of
a T-Rex trying to play the keyboard with its tiny little
Space
claws.
T-Rex.
Space T-Rex, of course.
Great, okay. I like the idea that I'm going to hand a napkin or something to the movie film workshop, and they're not going to see the doodling I've drawn on it, and they're just going to produce a napkin-based alien.
Yeah, sure.
Which is fine. Like, it'll fit in fine.
They're like, oh, you had a drawing on the back. I thought the napkin was an alien species, and then just like, it is now. There's a napkin alien species. So I think very much in the style of Guardians of the Galaxy, we're going to have to put together a crack team.
Yep.
But they're all... Just like in Guardians of the Galaxy, they're all that sort of like likable rogue. They're all the Han Solo character.
Yep.
There's like 5 Han Solo type characters instead of having balance. It's just like, and with ours, all of them wear fedoras and leather jackets and have whips. And it's just like, you're all just Indiana Jones is like, yeah, but we're all also after like secret ancient artifacts. So like, it kind of makes sense.
You shouldn't wear the leather. It should be a vest instead of the leather jacket. So we get a bit of Han Solo in there. We need to make it like a
all right. So one of them's wearing a fedora and a leather jacket.
Yep.
The other one's wearing a vest.
Yep.
The other one's wearing like a president's "Get off my plane," and so we just
someone's wearing an Amish costume because he was in that film.
Witness. So we just pick every great Hollywood Homicide was. I know he's in that. 6 Days, 7 Nights. the remake of Sabrina.
Yep.
All of our characters are playing Harrison Ford archetypes. We've obviously missed Blade Runner because Blade Runner's just I mean, screw it. I think we've got the Blade Runner book in there.
Yeah.
Maybe we just get Harrison Ford to come back. Actually, they did Blade Runner, didn't they? Yeah. They actually, like, within the last 2 months, re-released.
Can we CGI Harrison Ford?
I don't know.
Like a young Harrison Ford? Like
we could just get the guy who's played young Harrison Ford in the Harrison Ford Star Wars stories. Get Donald Glover in there.
Yep. All right, hang on. Let's go back to our story. Story is important to me.
Story is important. I don't know.
So here's the story. We've got the origin planet inhabited by space dinosaurs. The space dinosaurs have a competing race of space Nazi dinosaurs who have cracked open the seal on this planet and have now exposed it to the rest of the galaxy.
Yep.
So now there's a crisis going on because everyone is racing towards this planet. They want to take it over and they want to be in charge of the entire universe. So enter our roguish team of Han Solo characters.
Are these guys dinosaurs as well, or are they mixed race?
I don't know. This is the thing. We wanted humans in the film. It doesn't mean that other space dinosaurs couldn't be. I mean, I'd love to see like a space dinosaur dressed up as Harrison Ford, dressed up as Indiana Jones.
That would be good, but I feel as though we're missing an opportunity. And I think, and I'm going to say it right now, Chris Pratt has to be in the film.
Sure.
But he's not playing the lead role.
Yeah.
I think he's playing like the second Harrison Ford type character, and then the first Harrison Ford type character, which is actually played by Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
But in the same way they do in Tron, where we've just made him look younger.
So is this how we're dealing with the misogyny issue as well? Just cast all males in the film?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
and
cool.
they are. Instead of being misogynists, they're just misanthropes, right? Because they just hate people in general. It's like they've got all this pent up hatred.
Sure.
It's like, I can't direct this at women. I just have to direct it at people in general. And I suppose that's saying, like I said, misanthrope, right? Because that's anthro is human.
Yep.
But there's also dinosaurs, right? So there's dinothropes. And like we can put whatever other species we want in there as well, and we can direct hatred towards them.
So is our collection of rogues kind of just blasé about the whole thing? They don't really care about the origin planet?
I think they care more about there's an artifact, and I think we make the artifact like a meteorite that is the seed of life.
Yes.
And they're more sort of the bounty hunter kind of. Maybe one of them's out for themselves, the other one believes it belongs in a museum, and the other guy's, he just wants my family back. Like any motivation, and the other one just wants people to get off his plane, because that's, these are the motivations.
Planes don't even exist in this universe.
Get off my spaceship.
No,
and then he punches
plane, but no one knows what he's talking about.
Exactly. He punches Gary Oldman off the back of his spaceship.
Right.
Cool. Any motivation that Harrison Ford has been given in any film, he can now have in this one.
So this artifact, this meteor, let's say that it is the reason why. So something has happened to this meteor. Maybe it detects that the evil Nazi dinosaurs are plotting against it, and it sends out this sort of distress beacon.
Okay, yeah,
and
sure.
that's what opens up the planet to exposure to the rest of the universe. So we've got, who else? I think there should be another team competing to race to this artifact.
I think you're limiting yourself if there's just one.
Oh,
like if we put in like a dozen, sort of like hodgepodge.
So this is like the sci-fi remake of Rat Race. Or It's a Mad World.
Exactly.
Because,
that is exactly what it is.
That film came out in the 40s, I think, and no one remembers it except for weirdos like me who have seen it.
I'm on board with Rat Race. I have not seen the Mad World.
You've definitely seen the parodies of it, because it was parodied on The Simpsons, where they go to chase that treasure buried under the giant
teeth. I mean, I get the premise, because you said Rat Race, and that's the
anyway.
Frame reference.
So that's it. This film is the space version of Rat Race. So we've got a dozen competing teams, all racing to this origin planet to get the meteor and either save the universe or sell it at a pawn shop somewhere to make some money.
Stop the Nazi dinosaurs from destroying the universe, or to make. I think the Nazi dinosaurs are going to use it to convert every other planet in the universe into Nazi dinosaurs.
Okay,
because they're you've got that eugenics sort of thing going on with the Nazis there.
If that meteor is the originator of the universe, it also has the power to reshape it as it sees fit.
Exactly.
So whoever's in charge of it can just recraft the universe in its own image. So Nazi universe. That'd be terrible. But okay, so let's think about who else is going to be racing towards this thing.
We do these very sort of subtle references. Like, you know how, like, I think J.J. Abrams put sort of like R2-D2 as a piece of debris in the Star Trek remake.
Yep.
Like, one of the other teams is going to be like the Guardians of the Galaxy team, but we never sort of really mention it.
Okay,
Did you ever watch a animated TV series from the 90s called Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys? Of course you didn't, because no one but me has ever seen it, apparently. That's going to be one of the teams as well. Okay. So any group of pluckish sort of like space rogues can be one of the teams, and we just kind of like just subtly reference who they are, but we never actually sort of say it outright.
Yep, Biker Mice from Mars.
Biker Mice from Mars definitely in the mix.
Shouldn't
there somewhere.
Need to go in there because no one has seen that for a while.
Yeah. And they are from Mars, which is space.
Yeah. Can we put Matt Damon in there too? Because I was thinking of The Martian.
All right, because when you said Matt Damon, I was thinking of Interstellar, like because he shows up in that, even though no one really knew he was in that film. So maybe we just do have a team of space Matt Damons. So any film that Matt Damon's been in, where he's been in space.
Well, it's more like every film that he's been in that he's needed rescuing in. Someone calculated a while back that if
Saving Private Ryan,
the world
of course.
has spent a lot of money saving Matt Damon's ass. So we had to save him from Mars in The Martian. We then had to save him from some far off distant planet in Interstellar.
So
we had to save him from World War II in Saving Private Ryan as well.
George Clooney was in Gravity, right?
Yes.
So both Matt Damon and George Clooney have been in space. Has Brad Pitt ever been in space? Because otherwise we might be able to put the entire Ocean's 11 cast, but reprising their space roles in there as well.
We're going to have to go get Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac can be the AI.
Great.
We can do AI Bernie Mac.
And we'll just resample his voice from all the films he's been in.
And I mean, you absolutely know that Scott Caan and Casey Affleck aren't up to anything at the moment.
And then we get I've forgotten his name. The guy that plays the Iron Patriot in Iron Man now. He's an actor. Was Terrence Howard, but not. Why do I remember Terrence?
Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle with his bad,
terrible.
He's Cockney accent. I'm going to blow the bloody doors off.
All right, so we've got 3 teams. We've got every Harrison Ford role, every Matt Damon role. Oh, hang on. Is it every Matt Damon role?
No, I think Matt Damon might just be in Space Ocean's 11.
Space Ocean's 11. Okay, great.
We are distinctly lacking female characters.
But didn't we maintain that this film was just going to be full of males?
Possibly, but like I was thinking maybe our main team could be full of males.
Yep.
And then we can just like, because that's a lot of eggshells we got to avoid sort of stepping on there. Lots of the other teams can have it, like have their female characters, strong female characters doing sort of the brave sort of things. Or maybe we do like
Team Sigourney Weaver.
This is actually the perfect opportunity to do the coin flip, right? So we write all of the characters gender neutral, and then we flip a coin.
Great idea.
And whatever it lands on, heads or tails, male or female, it doesn't matter. Gender, racial casting, sexuality preference, it absolutely does not matter at all. Whoever comes in and reads best for whatever character gets the role, and that's how we'll play it. So if Space Matt Damon happens to be played by a woman, then that's fine. We can write it as Space Matt Damon, and that's great. But if Kirsten Dunst comes in and knocks the audition out of the park, then she can play Space Matt Damon. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's fine. But there's still... So hang on. It's female actors auditioning for male parts.
They're not male parts, AJ. You're thinking about it all backwards. You're thinking so 20th century. And this film is quite clearly set in the
41st century.
Exactly. That's the exact number that I was thinking of too. It's the 41st century dinosaur Nazi space adventure that everyone's crying out for. We've analysed the market, AJ. This is exactly what people want to see.
Yeah. All right. So there's a bunch of distinct teams racing for this artifact. So what should happen? Should it be like comedy hijinks or should it be space battles?
You know what? Because you pointed out in Valerian that it was missing quite a lot of levity.
Yeah.
And they were trying for levity, but it didn't work. And the reason that it didn't work is because they didn't have Jake Johnson. So I think we do it like, there's some parts serious, some parts comedy. And for the some parts comedy, it's just a team of Jake Johnsons. So we've got a team of 5 space Jake Johnsons. And whenever it's getting a bit too intense, we just cut to what they're doing. The puzzles they're trying to solve, the spelling out Jehovah in letters and only the penitent man may pass, dive rolling to avoid their heads getting cut off. That's what Space Jake Johnson team's up to.
Great.
And so we insert our levity that way.
Yep. So are they even on the chase for this artifact, or are they just doing their own thing?
No, they're definitely one of the teams that are on the chase for it. So yeah.
All right, that'll do. That's nice. And should these teams meet up at a certain point? Like, should there be
they
a
definitely
climactic...
cross paths, because I think there's like maybe like a labyrinthine sort of like temple that they have to go through,
Sure.
or there's definitely puzzles they have to solve and traps they have to get through, and so you might see like, you know, they'll come past and there's a team of dead people and they're all stuck with blow darts because they didn't figure out the puzzle, and so it's kind of like you're saying, the rat race where there's people sort of racing for it, but this is more sort of action where, you know, 10 teams enter, but only one team can survive victorious sort of
so
scenario.
It's like a battle royale kind of thing.
It is a little bit battle royale, but it's sort of squad-based battle royale, and it's a little bit rat race, it's a little bit Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a little bit Nazi dinosaur T-Rexes with their fascist regime.
Now, there's one thing we haven't considered, and that is a gratuitous celebrity cameo. So, obviously, Valerian and the Thousand City Villagers, town plots, council members, has Rihanna, sorry, I keep confusing her with a friend of mine. It has Rihanna in it. So we need, like all our previous films, we've cast sports stars and wrestlers and
You're saying we need, like, we've got George Clooney and the Ocean's 11 cast.
Yeah, but they're legitimate actors though. We need someone that isn't really an actor. Because Rihanna is not an actor.
Right, okay. So you know what I reckon we can do? Like, we've mined the world of, like, wrestling.
Sure.
We've mined the world of sports.
Yep.
We've mined the world of, like, everyone's done singers. You know who don't get good cameos are authors. I think, like, book authors just don't get as many
so
cameos.
recognizable as well. I mean, their photos are on the back of all their books, so surely you would recognize them.
Yeah, I mean, we could get J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling, yeah, that'd be great. Jeffrey Deaver. He's
sure. Jeffrey Archer.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a quick look at my bookshelf and see who's that. Patrick Rothfuss might be up for some good things.
Yeah,
Wilbur Smith. Is Wilbur Smith even a real person? I have absolutely no idea.
Probably. Why not? We'll get him.
Yeah, sure.
Matthew Reilly.
It's good. Good Australian author, Matthew Reilly.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd be up for it. Actually, it sounds quite like a Matthew Reilly book, if I'm being completely honest. I think he did a book called Contest, which was very much like lots of aliens enter an enclosed space and have to fight it all out.
Great. So he's an expert then. So he's one of the teams.
Yeah, sure. But I think like they did with Simon Pegg in Star Wars, we put him in a big prosthetic suit. So even though he's in there as a cameo, you can't even tell that
all
it's
the
him.
authors are in suits, in prosthetic suits, and we'll actually get proper suits. It won't be CGI for them.
Because as we discussed, the digital and practical are just not. There's a bit of a fractured relationships there. So we want to make sure there's a good division of labor.
So now, do we want to figure out how this film ends? Do we want to have an ending? Like, is it
a freeze frame, Rocky style freeze frame?
Yeah.
Two teams reach out to touch the crystal meteorite, and it just freeze frames.
Freeze frame. Behind them, you can see like the Nazi dinosaurs racing towards them. You can see the other dinosaurs just sort of in a corner there, just beaming light to each other. And then freeze frame. And then fade to white.
Exactly.
And no to be continued. No. Like coming soon in part 2. Just end it like that. Very postmodern. You can just figure out how you want it. It's like how Inception ends, where you decide it's
an ambiguous ending. I like it. Yeah. You decide which one of them grabs the seed of life first.
We could almost do a choose your own ending thing as well. Like if we're gonna launch this on our own digital distribution platform, which is called so if we have the technology for people to just choose how they want it to end, and then we just film
I think we don't tell them. But every time they play through the movie, there's a different ending. And so people are like, I watched that thing on my first video the other day, and I was really surprised that at the ending, the car just took off and flew into the sky, kind of like the end of Grease for no apparent reason. It's like, really? Because the one that I watched was a really weird ending where Michael Caine and his crew were just balanced on the end of a cliff, and it just ended there. It was really weird for no apparent reason.
That'd be great. No one's done that before. That'll get us Oscar Gold.
I think Clue or Cluedo, depending where you are, had a few alternate endings that they released at different cinemas, but it's not quite the same.
It's not the same
because I think people knew about that, but this one they don't know.
This is like it just every time, and I reckon we should film like 100 different endings as well, just as many as we can do. In fact, we should spin off the studios to just one part of the studio should just be continually making endings to this film.
So it's Movie Film Studios Workshop AE, and that stands for alternate endings. And that's all they're doing for the end of time.
Just for this film.
Just
hundreds and hundreds of endings.
Every month, like a new ending comes out for the film, and people are just constantly, because there's those completionists out there that can't do anything but like, I have to have seen everyone, and then those views on Mephisto will just go up incredible. Like, it'll be the highest viewed thing thing because you have just so many people doing repeat viewings.
Like the Wikipedia article for that film is going to be massive. It's just going to be the biggest thing on there.
In fact, I know we can't call it that, but it really is the never-ending story.
In space.
Never-ending story in space. I think we need to come up with a better film title for it than that. Have you got any ideas?
Not really. I mean, look, we need to have some kind of weird sound. Like maybe we name it after the name of the dinosaur planet, the space dinosaur planet.
Yeah.
Like
Cretaceon, I believe, is the name of that planet.
Beautiful. Cretaceon is perfect.
Yeah.
So Cretaceon, the Cretaceon Wars.
Or it could be Cretaceon and the Seed of Life.
Oh, that's great.
I like that.
I love the and.
Yeah, because I mean,
sci-fi films need an and in there.
And of course, Cretaceon has a twin planet, Mesozoon, and like in the original comic book, it was called Cretaceon and Mesozoon, and Mesozoon is just left out of the title for this one for no apparent reason.
That's fine. Great. Cretaceon and the Seed of Life. That is such a sci-fi sounding name. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So coming soon to Methuselah.
You're not pronouncing it right.
I'm sorry.
It's Methuselah.
Methuselah.
Yeah, sure.
Great. Perfect.
I think I'm missing a P in there, but that's all right. The P is silent, like in pneumatic and pneumonia.
That's great. Oh, man. I think that's a wrap.
I think that is indeed.
I think it's a wrap.
Any housekeeping from this week?
Yes. Always housekeeping.
I did actually notice this week they've released a new podcasts app on iTunes, on the iPhone, sorry.
Yes.
And it's horrible in every other way that I want it to be. It doesn't play my things in order. Yep. I have to create playlists.
Great.
But what it does do, which is much easier than it has been for a long while, is leave star ratings for podcasts that you listen to. Yes. It is really as simple as just clicking 5 stars, or really ever how many stars you want to leave. So if you've done it before on the previous podcast app, have a look, see if you can do it again.
Yep.
If you haven't done it before, have a look, see if you can do it again.
Yep.
Obviously write reviews and we'll read them out as soon as we have them.
Make up a whole bunch of fake accounts as well and just rate us. Even if you want to rate us 1 star, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be fine.
Multiple accounts. We're not above board on that. Most of the reviews that you see there at the moment are from no.
I mean, how do you think Oscar nominations work?
Exactly.
There's an actual academy. It's just one dude who keeps making accounts.
George Clooney votes for Monuments Men for Best Picture, and then George Clooney also votes Monuments Men for Best Picture.
Hey, I really enjoyed Monuments Men, but that's a totally different discussion.
Where else can they find us?
So they can find us on Facebook. Give us a like on there. You can find us on Twitter. We're at Movie Film Studio. I mean, again, Twitter just letting us down. We've got so many studios now. We have a website, moviefilmstudios.net, where you can find some lovely pictures of us and bios and all of our episodes and all sorts of stuff. And I think that's it. We're on iTunes and any other podcasting app that's out there in the known universe, including on Planet Cretaceous.
Yeah, Cretaceon.
Cretaceon, yeah. There's a podcast over there, and our podcast is on it.
So also check out the Facebook page. Either on Monday or Tuesday, I'll post clues for what movie we watched this week. They're normally in the form of emojis, I think.
The only thing we got from Emoji Movie was using it to communicate things.
I mean, I put up what I thought was quite a good cryptic clue this week, which was... plutonium and platinum for Atomic Blonde, and I'm like, that's it's got alliterative. Good. It's got no one got it. And then as soon as I put up a picture of a bomb and a picture of a blonde lady, they're like, oh, okay, you definitely watched Bomb Girl this week. I'm like,
look, I think we've got to be careful without by going too highbrow. We don't really want to be that studio that is too highbrow for everyone and makes these arty-farty. No, we're for everyone.
Exactly,
we make films for everyone and for everything. So I think that's it. Once again, check out Cretaceon and the Seed of Life in the cinemas soon. And Methuselah. And thank you all for listening. I've been Isaac. And I've been AJ.
Roll credits.